All right, happy Friday and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for May 10th, 2024, 5/10/24, Military Spouse Appreciation Day in the US of A, first proclaimed by President Ronald Reagan back in 1984. And according to today's White House proclamation, there are nearly 1 million military spouses in the United States today, and kudos to you if you are one of them. Today is your much well-deserved day. It is a big, big, and often difficult role to fill, so we thank you for all that you do, all that you have done, and we thank your spouses for their service to the country, of course. The Trump trial, the pause of weapons to Israel, the anti-Israel college campus protests, and the wide open border continue to dominate the news cycle. First thing this morning, I heard a report from one of the big three networks. And when I say the big three, I mean not a cable news channel, maybe the big four, right? Saying that Republicans continue to equate President Biden pausing one shipment of bombs to Israel with abandoning Israel. Well, apparently, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders aren't very happy about it either, saying Israel is prepared to stand alone.
We will defeat our genocidal enemies. Never again is now.
This is the statement from the White House.
We are especially focused on the end use of the 2,000-pound bombs and the impact they could have in dense urban settings, as we have seen in other parts of Gaza.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre aboard Air Force One with the president last night on the way to San Francisco for a couple of private fundraisers today and then a campaign event tonight in Seattle. And once again, his political opponent, the former president and Republican nominee for president, is back in court today to wrap up the second week of his hush money trial. We get more from Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports.
Folks who watch Newsmax know that I am totally outraged, as we all are really, about what President Trump is going through. These cases, they are a crime. These are crimes that they are waging against Donald Trump. This is criminal activity, putting this man in court. These cases, well, there's nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. It's amazing. And I hate that he's going through this. I hate that he's off the campaign trail. But at the same time, spectacular things are happening. And, well, I had to go there and see it myself. I went to the court today. I was actually in the courtroom. That's me outside the courthouse. I just had to kind of try to prove that I was there in some way. You can't take pictures once you're inside the court. I'm glad I went. Again, I wish I didn't have to, but I had to see it for myself. So you get into the courtroom after going through multiple layers of security, which is totally appropriate. It's kind of laid out like a, well, you've all seen a courtroom, right? Kind of like a church in a way. And I'm sitting there waiting for it to all start, about an hour, and just kind of minding my business and looking at my internet, and the prosecution comes in. All 17 of them, it seemed like. Not only these people, but all kinds of paralegals and technicians, that these employees of the government, they work for us. They're spending this kind of money on false records, allegedly. It's crazy. It's corrupt. It's wrong. Now, they came in from the front of the court, kind of like, where I guess if this were a church, it would be the altar. They'd come in from the far left corner. Now, as for the defense, Donald Trump and his team, they come from the back. And almost like, a wedding, when they come in from the back of the church, I did what kind of came natural. The president of the United States, a former president of the United States, walks into the room. I stood up instinctively. I was the only one. You don't do that. Certainly nobody in the fake news was going to stand. And apparently it's policy. I was told right away to sit down by several court officers. I don't fault them. That's the policy. I sat down. but I did say hello to President Trump, and he said hello back. And the fake news, well, they noted it. Newsmax host Greg Kelly stood and flashed a thumbs up when Trump first entered earlier in the day. Look, I wanted to see this stuff, but I also was there to support him. And they also noted, these people keep their eye on everything, especially when it comes to a conservative media. They think this is negative. I actually like it. As he exited the courtroom for a quick morning break, Trump pointed to Newsmax host Greg Kelly, who stood and flashed a thumbs up. I got to do it. And it was a privilege, actually, to be there.
So Greg Kelly was in the courtroom to see the things that we have not been able to see outside of those ridiculous court sketches. The makeup of the jury is public, but Greg had an interesting observation on the jury.
Let me talk about the makeup of the jury in terms of ethnicity and race. Normally, I don't focus on those things. You don't focus on those things, but everybody in New York sure does, and I know the prosecutors, when they were picking this jury, oh yeah. You think they were going to go to this length and just pick random jurors? I'm sure they're random in a sense, but anyway, mostly white people, one Asian man, one black woman, no black males. I don't know why that is. Donald Trump is surging with black men. I don't know. Are they fearful that a black man might see through this farce right away? I don't know. I do know that they factor that in when they are screening jurors. Absolutely they do. We'll see.
And for his take as far as Stormy Daniels goes,
I always kind of thought, I had a hunch that, no, that didn't happen. And the more I learned about her and the more I learned about the circumstances, I'm like, that didn't happen. Now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I know she did not have the encounter she describes with Donald Trump. There was no sexual encounter. I'll get to that in a moment. First, some interesting things I did learn as I sat there and took it all in about Stormy Daniels. The defense attorney brought out some very interesting facts about Stormy. Number one, on her book that she wrote about Donald Trump, she made $800,000 for that. Full disclosure, right? She made $200,000 for a reality show called The Surreal Life, $125,000 for a documentary called Stormy. It also emerged that she had a relationship with one of the photographers on the movie while she was married. It just came out. Anyway, what does it mean? It's just there. It came out today. What else did I learn about Stormy? Did you know that she had a comic book? Yeah, a comic book, Stormy Daniels. Also that she had a tour where she totally highlighted that she allegedly had this encounter with President Trump, stripping all over the country. Stormy Daniels, Make America Horny Again. These are all profit-making endeavors that she had as a result of her alleged hookup with Donald Trump. It all comes back to Trump. Let's see. We have this indictment candle. All right. They call her the patron saint of indictments. This is merchandise that she is selling and making money from. The candle goes for $40. She grumbled during court that she only got $7 per candle. This is another poster from her Stripping Across America tour. The woman who was with Donald Trump. She says, I had nothing to do with the marketing. All right. What else did I see today that was interesting? Stormy Daniels talks to dead people. Yeah, she has a business where she says she can, like Whoopi Goldberg or like that kid in, The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis, talking to dead people. She says she can do that, and she charges people for money.
Well, I certainly knew some of that stuff, but have you ever heard any of that other stuff anywhere else? She charges people money to talk to their dead relatives. I doubt you're going to hear about that and a lot of other stuff on other networks. Don't forget, there are 8 prosecutors in this case. 8! I would love to know if any one of them thought that maybe putting the porno star Stormy Daniels on the stand wasn't going to be the best strategy? Did any of them think that this woman who blatantly bribed a presidential candidate for money, who charges people to talk to their dead relatives, who's selling merchandise based off of the alleged affair with Donald Trump and has been caught lying in the past, just like their other star witness, maybe we shouldn't put her on the stand? And yesterday they were reading, when I say they, I mean the prosecution, were reading from a book that Donald Trump wrote well over 20 years ago. What does her testimony, her salacious testimony, and the book, whatever he said in the book, and most everything else they've presented, have to do with the actual check and how it was accounted, or if it violated campaign finance rules? That's it, right? That's what this whole thing was about. Now it's merely a character assassination of Donald Trump. Almost everything has nothing to do with what the actual crime or charge is supposed to be. Maybe they asked her this on cross-examination. I don't know. I'll have to ask Greg Kelly. But Trump's lawyers should say, "So, Ms. Stormy," or whatever they call her, "when do you intend to pay Donald Trump the $300,000 in court fees that you were court ordered to pay in the last court case?" Has that come up? More from Rob Finnerty on Wake Up America.
Over the past 72 hours, we've heard all about a billionaire who apparently wears silk pajamas. Again, that is not out of the ordinary. A luxury, yes, but not out of the ordinary. We've also heard Stormy describe how she spanked Trump with a magazine and that Trump was in bed wearing boxers in a T-shirt. Again, not out of the ordinary. Pretty normal, actually. But none of this, again, has anything to do with the case where Alvin Bragg is trying to convince this 12-person jury that Trump conspired to steal the 2016 election by suppressing this whole story, which, again, is not a crime. It's also not a crime to suppress politically damaging information. Hunter Biden laptop, table for one, happens all the time. So where are we now? Well, we continue to wait for the prosecution to actually start prosecuting the case against Donald Trump, the case of allegedly falsifying business records to conceal a payment by Michael Cohen to Stormy Daniels, a misdemeanor, by the way, for anyone not named Donald Trump, a bookkeeping error at very best. Here's Trump today after court.
I'm not supposed to be here. We are so innocent. There's never been anything like it. Read every single analyst, legal analyst. I'm innocent, and I'm being held in this court with a corrupt judge who's totally conflicted. Take a look at his conflict. It's a disgrace to the city of New York, to the state of New York, and to the country.
All right, so what's really going on here in Lower Manhattan? The case is really more about trying to rough up Trump 5.5 months from Election Day by dragging out this middle-aged porn star, build her up like she's suddenly Saint Stormy, and have Saint Stormy tell a tawdry little tale from 18 years ago about the time that she slept with a billionaire, a TV star from The Apprentice. The problem, of course, is that none of it's true. And even if it is true, it's not against the law. And Americans have known about Stormy and the Access Hollywood tape and everything else for almost 10 years. And how about this? According to a Rasmussen poll, this week, Donald Trump has a 10-point lead over Joe Biden, and Democrats just can't stand it. They don't understand how it's possible. Americans know who Trump is. He was president for 4 years, and unlike Joe Biden, he's got a record that he can actually fall back on. And unlike Joe Biden, who, according to a Gallup poll this week, has got the lowest approval rating on the economy in U.S. history.
On yesterday's Newsmax Daily, I played a segment of the CNN interview pressing President Biden on the economy. If you missed yesterday's Daily, by the way, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. But Bianca De La Garza spoke about the Biden economy and that CNN segment with Trump senior advisor Jason Miller.
They like to say they created jobs. These were jobs that were just coming back from COVID. They try to take this victory lap, but there's so much at the stake here now with Americans in so much pain and a real decision to make. And he just brushes it off, saying he's working hard. In fact, he actually had the nerve to say that he says there's corporate greed out there. What do you make of his statements?
Well, this is exactly why the Biden administration doesn't book him for many interviews, because he goes out there and says some pretty way off things. I mean, for all the talk about RFK Jr. and if he has a worm in his brain, I don't even know what Joe Biden has in his brain, because this is mind-numbingly stupid. So let's go ahead and unpack this for a moment here, because it's really disrespectful to everyone who's suffering under a Biden economy and everyone who's struggling on a month-by-month basis. Under Joe Biden, at the beginning, when President Trump left office, was a 1.4% inflation. Now you look at cumulative inflation over the entire time Biden's been in office, it's up right around 20%. Some things, whether it be electricity, a number of other things, are up more like 30% increase. Mortgages, home mortgage payments are on average 90% more expensive under Joe Biden, and 2/3 of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So when Biden says, like he did in that interview, that people have the money in their pocket, well, they don't. And this is why your numbers are in the toilet.
Trump senior advisor Jason Miller on Newsline, and this is Florida Senator Rick Scott in New York yesterday.
Look, we know that President Biden can't win this election fair and square. He has nothing to run on. And we know President Trump has a record. He secured the border. He had a great economy where we weren't at war. So that's why this is happening. Joe Biden knows and Democrats know that he cannot win.
What can he run on? It's not the economy. We know there's a big push right now to make sure that illegals aren't able to vote. We'll get into that in just a moment here. Your reaction to Rick Scott and his comments today, so clear, so concise, and so behind Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I think Senator Scott is spot on here because Joe Biden cannot run on inflation. He cannot run on illegal immigration, Biden migrant crime, or the chaos caused at the southern border in Ukraine or in the Middle East. Everything is going wrong for Joe Biden. So the Democrats, they have come up with this genius idea that they're going to make protecting democracy, which is really just a vehicle for gaslighting and misinformation and disinformation to the American public. But this protecting democracy, which is lawfare and weaponizing the judicial system against President Trump, is their number one issue. Well, unfortunately, polling that came out this past week shows President Trump and Joe Biden are tied on the issue of protecting democracy. Here's why. People see right through this. They see the way that it's all become politicized, the way that the legal system is now weaponized against political opponents, and people say that's ridiculous. Run on the issues.
Again, that is Jason Miller on Newsmax with Bianca De La Garza. President Trump, by the way, will be out of the courtroom and out on the campaign trail tomorrow, hosting that rally in Wildwood, New Jersey that I've been talking about. That is at 5 o'clock Eastern. You can see it on Newsmax. Meanwhile, the judge in Trump's other New York trial, the civil fraud trial, the one against the Trump organization, Judge Arthur Engoron, is now under investigation after a New York real estate attorney told NBC News in New York that he gave Engoron some unsolicited advice before he made the final judgment in Trump's case for overvaluing real estate assets. His claim prompted a New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct to now launch an investigation into the alleged interaction between the real estate attorney and Engoron. Wow. That, I would think, could potentially be something big. And I'm going to shift gears a bit to wrap things up here, but sticking with the New York theme. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld back in the spotlight after making his directorial debut with a Netflix film. Also, he appeared on that Billy Joel 100th anniversary thing, and for comments that he made on WNYC radio in New York. Seinfeld co-star John O'Hurley, who played Mr. Peterman, spoke with Newsmax about the wokies killing comedy with political correctness. First, here's Seinfeld's comments.
John, what do you think of that analysis?
I think he's spot on. The first casualty of any attempt at social reform is always the collective sense of humor and the ability to make fun of yourself. That is what keeps us mentally healthy. Because as they said at Firesign Theater back in the 60s, in the middle of the Vietnam era, they said, Firesign Theater said, remember, we are all just bozos on the bus. And it couldn't be more true. Unfortunately, there is such a resistance now. Everything has to be digested through the prism of, is it socially correct, before they can even muster up a laugh. I find it now on stage very, very often.
Yeah, sort of the guardrails that you feel are put in place because, I mean, when your career's on the line, there's a lot at stake. And talk to us about what that maybe means for humor and comedy. Are comedians more hesitant to push the boundaries when it comes to the content of their comedy?
They absolutely are, because it only takes, the internet is forever. And unfortunately, careers come and go like that. And just the notion that you've been inappropriate is enough to scare the pencil out of any writer's hand.
That's actor John O'Hurley, Mr. Peterman, on National Report with Emma Rechenberg. So Israel, the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, the Trump trial, the Biden campaign events, there's several of them, and more potential teleprompter gaffes all coming up. Keep up with all of the news all day and all weekend long on Newsmax, beginning with Wake Up America Weekend Edition Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m. And don't forget, Sunday is Mom's Day. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Have a fantastic and safe weekend, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.